Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Tuesday Night Noir. This time we have Murder My Sweet by the great Edward Dmytryk, starring Dick Powell and Anne Shirley. Very cool Philip Marlowe film. With me, as always, is my trusty TA, Moose Malloy. Say hi, Moose Malloy.
Hi, Moose.
And we have the Klingon cleric, Troy Pacelli himself. Welcome, Troy.
Pleased to make your acquaintance.
There you go. And the always charming and talented Sound Engraver. Welcome, Sound Engraver.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
We are good. We are good. And probably give people a minute or two to start in. And in terms of queuing up the movie, we just have it at pretty much the 1 second mark. The little RKO logo is on the screen, but I don't think the letters are there yet. We just have the little antenna and the beeping, antenna on the globe and whatnot. So,
yeah. One little thing before we start, I do want to, we did, of course, if anybody has seen the film, will recognize my avatar as one of the characters in the film, Moose Malloy. Actor's name, Mike Mazurki. And now, why am I bringing this up? Well, Mike Mazurki appeared in Batman, and he was a henchman to Siren. So, Sound Engraver, this is for you.
Nice.
And that's very interesting because Moose, the character, absolutely terrified me.
He is terrifying. He is, yeah. He's terrifying at the same time. He kind of makes you sympathetic. It's a weird character. We'll talk about him, but yeah, it's a.
You feel for him,
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
But he is terrifying. It's like it's like a child with all the power, great power, So yeah, definitly.
Characters,
yeah. But
that's good writing.
But I thought that little piece of trivia was interesting, that he was in Batman with our own Siren here.
That's
pretty nice.
cool.
Sound Engraver.
I knew he was a character actor that played that type a lot, but I did not know he was in Batman '66. I did not realize that. So.
Yeah, he did a lot. I mean, just not only just movies, but TV. And while I was looking into him, I was like, that's right, he was in Gilligan's Island. Now I remember.
Oh, that's where you remember him from. Okay.
Yeah, he played when they went to the island and they were brain swapping. Remember the scientist that was swapping the brain?
Was that an actual Gilligan's Island or some sort of a parody?
No, it was Gilligan's Island, and they had this big guy Igor, who was the assistant, and he had ginger. He got ginger implanted to him, so it was Mike Mazurki, but with Ginger Grant's voice coming out of his mouth.
That's funny. I've got to look that up.
If anybody remembers that, that's a great episode. Say that.
Got a super chat from Aged Boomer. Thank you very much, Aged Boomer. $5 says, "Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? Pacelli knows." That's true. He does look like the shadow down there.
Mm-hmm.
Just got the eyes visible.
That was the inspiration. Yep.
Cool. Very cool. I like that. And welcome to everyone in the chat. I didn't catch who was first because my chat has since respawned a couple times there.
I believe it was Mr. Matchstick.
I believe it was Mr. Matchstick.
Mr. Matchstick, you get the first reward tonight. Welcome. And Mr. Matchstick, I just saw your messages. Apparently you messaged me a couple times on Twitter when I was just sending out this link. So apologize for that. But Thursday night, I haven't even fully planned what's going on Thursday night. We're not doing a reading in terms of an assigned reading or anything. I'm going to do some stuff reading related or writing related, for the book study, just kind of get us ready for the next one and whatnot. But if you're around Thursday, Matchstick, that might be a good time. We'll at some point, maybe towards I don't know, to the end of the show, I don't know how long we're going to do the show, whatever, but I'll have you come on and you can do a little pitch for your Sunday night animes and for your specific one that you're going to do this Sunday. So get ready to come on and do a little commercial maybe Thursday if you're around. Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And may I comment real quick? Computer Robot says, "Where's Nanette on the screen? It's not the same without Nanette."
I always invite Nanette, but she never says yes that she'll come on my channel.
Well, she's the second comment, but she said she's sixth because she was the sixth thumbs up, but she doesn't have a link.
How dare you?
You sent it to the office hours stream, which is just you, me, and Al.
She's part of the Rewatch crew on Twitter, though.
That is true.
On Twitter. Oh, so you'd have to go to Twitter, sweetie.
I will, for you, Nanette, I will send it directly to you. Your very own Facebook Messenger message just from me to you. No, don't feel pressured. You're welcome to come on. We'd love to have you, but don't feel like you have to if you're rather feeling like you want to kick back and enjoy or something. So there you go.
And then I had a bit of conversation over the past hour with Dark Stranger about some Star Trek stuff that we would normally talk about during office hours, but we're not doing that now.
Oh, okay. Would we really normally talk? Oh, yes, Ray would talk about Star Trek stuff, the whole gender or LGBT thing. Yeah, that's pretty much in the new. Yeah, oh my
I'll
goodness.
be honest with you. You guys are all going, oh, yeah, he's actually kind of cute as a girl. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, how is this any different than blackface?
Hey,
I am offended as all hell.
Oh, I don't know anything about this.
I 100% agree with you, but
because he didn't do it. That's the thing.
But
you got to be offended at the artist, not at Shatner.
It still makes me feel very uncomfortable looking at these gender swap pictures of Captain Kirk where he's kind of hot.
I know.
of Mark Hamill going around as Luke Skywalker, feminized, and
wait, I think we got a little bit of echo on your
we got
mic there,
echo because Nanette just joined us.
There we go. I muted my YouTube.
Thank you. So,
thanks.
No, but I'm echoing on your mic as we usually do. So I'm trying to keep my head straight. So they have these pictures going around.
Still got that echo.
I know. There's nothing.
I can turn down my sound.
There were these pictures of Mark Hamill going around where he's completely feminized, very attractive, but basically saying, what if this was recast as a woman? And then they did the same thing with Spock and McCoy and Kirk. And yeah, they're very attractive women, but you're basically feminizing them. How is that different than blackface? I don't get it.
Yep,
apparently you can offend certain people, but not others.
That is the rule of the day, apparently.
But sorry, we're off topic. I just wanted to fill in Sound Engraver.
Nope, I just want to make sure we got everybody here. So we do have it at the 1 second mark, like I said, of the movie, and we will we'll get into a little bit of intros as the movie starts and everything. I'll talk about some things, and Sound Engraver, you feel free to shut me up if you want to talk about the music first or whatever. That's fine. But in terms of an introduction, this is an Edward Dmytryk film. He was very much he was very influenced by the expressionist filmmakers. So we talked about last time, like the German expressionism, how the exaggerated architecture and the twisted angles and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. One of the kind of themes of this movie I'll lay out just from the very beginning is this sort of funhouse theme where you see the real world as though everything was in this sort of twisted dream. And we even do actually eventually have a dream sequence in this, but you'll look at every house we go into. Every house is kind of exaggerated in its own way, looking sort of like a fun house. We look at these angles and stuff. I'll point them out as we go in, but this is just a general theme. So as we maneuver through this world with Philip Marlowe, he's the lowly person, in terms of cultural wise, going through this world of all these rich and famous or even older, well-kept people too, so we'll talk about it. Just wanted to kind of lay that out there as a theme to look for. May
I interject with that expressionist idea real quick? Because my impression of this film was it's very different from the other two films that I've seen. In that it could be because I saw late last night, but it was kind of hazy. The experience was a real hazy one. Things just. It was a sequence, but it didn't seem sequential to me. I don't know why, but I was wondering if they were after that kind of disjunct form.
Yeah, he likes that surrealist kind of touch, and so I mean, it is part of it's the story too, and everything. We'll talk about that, but yeah, it's definitely a theme of the directors. So definitely. All right, well, Nanette, did you cut your hair, or is that just a picture of somebody? What?
It's a picture from a few years back that she.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's my artsy fartsy hair.
Oh, okay.
I did a hair show. This was.
It's her pixie cut.
It was like over 10 years ago. I did a hair show, and they cut my hair really short. They made it red as the base, but then they put in like highlights of like yellow and I think there's actually a little bit of blue in there, but it's further back so you can't really see it. And it's
okay.
So I had tried to take a picture of me underneath the lights in our living room / library, which is kind of like what do you call it? Those can lights. So I got that great shadow effect.
Oh, yeah, it is. I can see that. Yeah.
She changed to that picture because over the weekend we were talking about her having been in a cameo in
Poltergeist 3.
Poltergeist 3, right. And this was the hairstyle she had at the time.
Cool. Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, when did Annie Lennox join the stream? So, all right. Well, we'll do the countdown again. We're at the 1 second mark. So I will say 3, 2, 1, play, and then we will hit the play button on that word. Mm-hmm. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, play.
If I happen to drop out, I'm actually going to change rooms so Troy can talk without having to whisper.
Okay. No problem. Now, this opening is really tricky, and it's part of the surreal thing. So we zero in. We don't really know what we're seeing yet. You kind of get the idea, okay, it's some sort of table from higher up, but we don't really know what's going on yet. And it's interesting how we still don't quite know what's going on until we get all the way to the table itself, and then we pull back and see the men sitting around it. Mm-hmm. So it's setting up from the very beginning all about perspectives. This is what the movie's about. Sorry, Al, go ahead.
And I think the title was changed it was originally Farewell, My Lovely.
Yeah.
They changed it to Murder, My Sweet because Dick Powell was so prevalent as a musical actor that the title seemed too flowery. So they changed this to give it a little bit harder edge.
Yeah, he wanted this to change his look, change his his reputation in Hollywood. He was actually quite a great tenor, singer, and dancer as well.
Mm-hmm. Very talented guy. Mm-hmm. And he was and he eventually became a director as well. Mm-hmm.
He eventually did a happy medium on the radio, Dick Diamond, the singing detective. It was a really cool, hard-boiled detective show.
And if I read correctly, this is the first film where they actually use the name Philip Marlowe.
I believe so, yeah. Because the other Chandler adaptations had been very loose. They've been changing characters and this and that. Mm-hmm. Now, I'd like to hear from all of you. What do you think of Dick Powell's Philip Marlowe versus the Humphrey Bogarts and whatnot? Because this is something that film studies professors debate about even today.
Well, I'll say I like Humphrey Bogart is more the tough guy, whereas Dick Powell, he doesn't come off as tough, but he comes off as a little more snarky. He's the wisecracker. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be the last one standing in a fight, but he's going to have the last word.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I would draw the comparison to anytime you have multiple actors playing the same role, whether that's James Bond, Jason Bourne, whatever. You say, well, this may be my favorite because I happen to like this one, or I happen to have seen that one first. But you look at what are the elements that are the same, because they're probably drawing them from the source material. Mm-hmm. I actually have to admit, I haven't read a lot of Marlowe, so I don't know those stories that well. I only know the films, but I can certainly point to that. Yeah, that hard-boiled detective element is still there. That's definitely drawing from the same place, the same inspiration. So I get a good idea of what this is meant to be. And Al, this has to be the exact inspiration for Dixon Hill, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of these are, yeah.
Real quick, I want to get Sound Engraver's thoughts on this too, but we just went out of the window of the police office there, and we saw these angles of the city, these kind of twisted angles eventually. Yeah. And now we go into his window in this flashback, and we're going to see this really, strange funhouse effect where Moose is revealed there, just looming over him. Yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't get the right perspective, so they had to do a little camera trick with the plane of glass.
Yeah.
and to get him to look that big in the shot.
Sound Graver, what are your thoughts on Dick Powell versus Bogart?
It's very hard to make the comparison seeing these films only once. I would say also the film format, this film is very different in structure compared to the other two that I've seen. It's just a different film. It's a different I had a very different experience with this film. So the difference, the same character played by two different actors seemed, it didn't seem off in any respect because the film was so different for me.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know. I would say as in terms of preference, I think I prefer Bogart to Powell. That's his last name, correct?
Yeah, Powell.
Yeah, Dick Powell, yeah.
I do like Powell. I like his mannerisms and his characteristics. As we're hearing the narration, I like that too. A lot of metaphors.
Yeah.
But I would say, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
It is very different, but I can't make the distinction because I just feel like the two films and the two stories are also very different.
Certainly, yeah.
Mr. Mashik was asking why they blindfold him. It was a blindfold, and you'll find out.
Yeah, you're not supposed to really know exactly why just yet, but we'll talk about that. We'll get back to that too, what that means that you start out with this character mysteriously blindfolded. That's kind of, what's the symbolism behind that, in terms of, because anytime you do something big like that, it's got to be something.
One little filming thing. Mike Mazurki is 6'4", Dick Powell's 6'2". Not that much different. So
I didn't know that.
Camera trick. They had Dick Powell walking in a lot of little ditches.
Oh, cool.
So they were doing it. They were doing whatever trick they had to make him look bigger.
Oh.
If I can just make one contrast between Powell and Bogart, I think the Bogart version is the character I'd more like to be like, but I'd probably in reality be a little bit closer to Powell.
Agent Boomer says, for $2, thank you very much. Agent Boomer says, that is a big and scary man. They really do a great job. He doesn't know his own strength, and you'll get a little bit of an example of his strength here in a second. And Marlowe thought he was going to be a tough guy, right? Marlowe was expecting him to take a gun out of his pocket, but he pulls out money, So he is this kind of weird place in between, and you don't mess with him or he will throw you across the room just like that.
Right.
At the same time, he really is just this big, naive, innocent, dopey guy looking for his girl, at the same time. So,
and that tells him something about him. It changes his whole opinion about him.
And I must say, the girl at the bar there, she's a cutie.
Oh yeah,
she was a cutie.
So you guys all hit on I think some great things about the comparison between the two. In film studies, you'll hear some people, they're academics are just nerds about their own chosen whatever they're specializing in, and you'll hear them argue back and forth and just get really heated. And I think it's kind of silly because I think the answer is more along the lines of what you guys said. This novel is probably the weakest of Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe novels. Not that it's not a lot of fun. It's got a lot of great stuff in it, but he took 3 short stories of his that had previously been published and tried to cobble them together into a novel. As a result, there's a lot of extraneous plot lines and characters and things like that. And this movie fixes a lot of that. This movie just kind of edits a lot of that out and makes it more straightforward, consolidates who the characters are and certain things like that. Because of that, though, it makes for a more hearted Philip Marlowe, one who can be a little snarkier, one who can be a little more comic. And it really, it's the only novel that really kind of allows for that in Marlowe. So while I think that perhaps Bogart is more in line with the Philip Marlowe from the books in general, I think Dick Powell is more in line for this movie than Bogart was for the book of The Big Sleep, if that makes sense,
Yeah, I can see that.
Love the narration.
Yeah, all the Chandler novels are written in first person. That's hard to do for a film with an omniscient narrator unless you pull this kind of system of having him tell the story.
What do you say, with a face like a bucket of mud?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And one thing about Moose, you got like he throws the guy across the room, but he still pays for the booze he takes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
He's not there to cause trouble.
He's not a bad guy.
The one thing I do have to say about a character narrating his own story, he survives at the end. Otherwise, he wouldn't be around to tell the story.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is all a recapitulation, or not recapitulation, but this is him telling the police what had happened anyway.
True.
Yeah. But they maintain some tension because even as he tells the story there, he tells them, I don't exactly, or I've told you part of it together, but let me try and put it together too. So he's not like, it's not somebody who's got all of the details figured out. And then by the end, when we get back up to the point where he's telling them there, he's still asking them a couple questions about what happened here or there, so it adds a layer of tension.
And is he at the start of that first scene at the table, is he being accused of murder or involvement of murder?
He's always involved, so they always want to know what's going on, so they're not, he's not straight up charging him, but they always want the details first before they let him go.
He was a cop at one time, but he kind of mouthed back. So
he was a DA investigator.
Yeah, now he's a private eye. So he does have that resistance to authority thing that those hard-boiled detectives seem to have. They're good guys, but the police just always seem to hate them.
Now, look at this room itself. We had the camera following him over there to the door. Now it's going to pull back, and we've got the actors moving around behind the scenes to get situated in the blocking. But because of the angles, this is just a normal house, but it's got that weird expressionistic look to it. The depth of field, the back room lit in the back of the shot, and then this up here, the weird angles they're sitting and looking at each other from. So you've got that sort of twisted, exaggerated feel to the architecture of the room. It's subtle at first. It'll get a lot more pronounced as we move on, but it's there. And
the music, whether it's in this kind of sequence or in that scene where he's dreaming and all of that, a lot of tones, a lot of technique that is very much that American expressionism that the American composers of 1920s were doing.
Was it Weber? Is that the name of the composer? Or
oh goodness, I forgot to check. I think it's Roy Webb.
Roy Webb. Well, I think it was something like Weber, Webb, something like that. Yeah, and he worked with Dmytryk quite a bit. But yeah, you're right. He does have that expressionistic sound to it. I'm glad you pointed that out.
I couldn't read much on him, although that he has a very extensive discography, if you will, or film history. But when was this film made? Was it 1944?
44, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is out of about a decade or so coming out of the second Viennese school of the German composers and Western composers of Europe, but Americans were also taking on some of these expressionist elements, musically speaking.
That makes sense.
That's
yeah, right.
Instead of the one side, the bulk of it pointing down, he's holding it like a club.
Yeah, and that's basically what he used it with, as in there as a club to get things out of her. Just plied her with alcohol. We talked over it, but I like when she stood up and she closes her robe. She goes, "No peeking."
Yeah,
the
no
face
problem.
like mud. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's kind of cruel, Al.
I know, Al. Gosh.
See, and if you're playing her with alcohol,
it's
you're
no
gonna
problem. It's no problem to be a gentleman and not look. Okay.
Coming from you,
you at least make her feel like you would.
So think about the examples of, one of the things we talked about in hardboiled detective fiction in particular, in its version of film noir. Film noir has this aspect in general too. But the exploration of manhood or the different types of man, what it is to be manly and so forth. And the hardboiled detectives, usually that, that kind of answer to being the manly type. And the characters you see all around them, we've got Moose, crazy strong, but just rock. now we've got not Florian. What's his name again?
Marriott.
Marriott. Thank you, Marriott. And the elevator guy just said he smells real nice. He's supposed to be foppish, you know. He's supposed to be in the book. He's not like a straight up homosexual necessarily or anything, but he's like a dandy. He, you know, he'll just a pretty boy who dalliances with women and stuff like that.
Especially that car he drives.
Oh yeah.
That's a nice car.
Fellow here with the mustache looks just like my dad when my dad was, of course, much younger and still living.
Like pictures I've seen of your dad. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like same hairstyle, same pencil mustache. My dad had the same nose.
Well, no, I don't think the prof was saying that your dad was effeminate.
No.
No, I wasn't even thinking about
I
that.
don't think that was. Yeah.
I'm sure your father moves very manly and not a foppish dandy way.
Well, he did. I hope he's not doing any moving now.
Yeah, I just happened to look at the face and I'm like, oh, he looks a lot like my dad does in pictures when I was like a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 34 here, the actor, when he did this. I forget his name. He was trying to kind of break into these serious films as well, but didn't quite work out as well as it did for Dick Powell. This is a joke. Really he asked, "How would you like a swift punch on the nose?" And Powell like doesn't even flinch. Like, here, take your car and get out of here. You know,
Douglas Walton.
There you go.
Yeah, actually, Dick Powell, when he's wearing that hat, he looks like my first composition professor, and my professor was really snarky too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I definitely would recommend, if you like his portrayal here, you could look up YouTube or audio of Dick Diamond. His portrayal of that as a radio detective was pretty good.
I do like his portrayal of this character.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that dialogue comes straight out of the Chandler book again, too. They wouldn't like you being twins, you know, that kind of thing.
That's what I don't understand about modern interpretations of books. If the dialogue is great, don't mess with it. Just take it right from the book.
It's funny, Chandler himself was so many of his works were made into films, and then he ended up writing screenplays, adaptations of so many other people's works. And he was always very outspoken about how Hollywood didn't treat the authors of books very well when they went to adapt their works. But when he went to adapt somebody else's work, he rewrote those things all over the place. Like he was guilty of the same thing. He did great jobs with them for the most part, but look at this grill on the car.
I know, I love it.
That Art Deco sun, and it's very much. Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I was just saying, one thing about that car is that the poor thing does not have power steering.
Oh. Yeah, no.
He has got to pull spin that sucker to turn.
We do have this kind of Art Deco Greek mythology kind of hints with all of the wealthier people in the movie in terms of their architecture and whatnot. And you get the idea that Marlowe is kind of like the mortal walking among gods, you know, in terms of class, you know, levels and whatnot. And one of my favorite, and he kind of, but he's unaffected. Like he doesn't mind. He doesn't care. He's just kind of, you know, maneuvering in between them, trying to figure out what's going on. My favorite scene that portrays that, or shot anyway, is I made it my thumbnail when he lights a cigarette by scratching it on the cherub's bum in the courtyard there, and he looks back at it.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. This music here, and when he's in the woods, you know, straight out of things like Berg and Stravinsky.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the same kinds of colors.
And those are usually about mythic themes too, right?
They can be.
Okay.
Yeah, and they can be based on, you know, absurd poetry. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the things I
great
love,
fog effect too.
I love the fact that you talk about the music, and I understand exactly what you're saying, the colors of the music, and it's a black and white film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, you got the
I more meant like, yeah, I totally know, like tone color. Yeah,
I knew exactly what you meant, but still, I love that, you know, juxtaposition.
I actually think that the music has to be complex because in a strange way, you know, you have that removal of color with black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that animation of the going.
Yeah,
going
but I
on.
love that. I love the imagery, the descriptive imagery that they used for him going out like that.
Yeah.
Diving into a black pool, and
Opened up at his feet. Yeah.
went up at his feet, and I dived.
And with the fog, with the black pool opening at his feet, again, we're in a fun house. We're we've got lights, fog, we've got all of this. The lovely Anne Shirley.
Mm-hmm.
That really does speak to what it means to be in the middle of a mystery, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to cut through the fog. You're trying to see clearly what's obscured from you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that comes back again. The fog when he wakes up out of the drug-induced dream, and he's smoke everywhere. We'll get to that in a bit.
And actually, with a fog musically and orchestrally, something very good with that is the high timbre and the range and the quietness of the upper strings, and the use of harmonics on a string has kind of like that. We see in that scene where it's kind of like the spider webs that he's waking up to.
Mm-hmm.
Has that same aural effect with the strings as we've heard in these woods.
So they're using harmonics at that point. That's interesting.
Yeah, something that can extract a really weird, unusual, otherworldly color and tone.
I love those old driver's license. I wish they still looked like that.
Yeah.
I've been playing LA Noir again lately, and I love every time you take a license out of a person's pocket or whatever to identify them. It's just got that black sort of chalky look. So this is the first time the police are always after him. He always kind of stumbles into a case or into a murder or into something, and they don't, they're always suspicious of him. But, you get the idea too, like Al said, obviously he has problems with authority and whatnot because, the institutions of the day are powerless to really solve the crime. It takes the hero, it takes the private detective to come to the end of it. So you get a little bit of idea that they're sort of jealous. Are they not wanting him to get to it before they want to crack it open or something like that? Tired of looking at you.
God, look at all that neon there in the city. God, I love it.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
That one guy reminds me of Randy Quaid for some reason.
I can see that a little bit. The hair.
Yeah. Nose, kind of the eyes a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. He sadly he passed away the very next year. He had a appendicitis or something like that.
Ouch.
And passed away just after it.
So, Professor, kind of a side thing, you brought it up and I wanted to ask, LA Noir, do you recommend it?
Heavily recommend it. Not if you're squeamish, because it's definitely an R-rated game. But if you like this kind of stuff, if you like noir films and casework and hardball detectives, 100% recommend. The only thing is, there's so much drama behind the making of it, and it leads to the fact that for some reason, just so many idiots are leaving money on the table, and they'll never do a sequel, apparently. Mm-hmm. So it really is going to frustrate you to death once you finally get to the end of it and realize you'll never get any more. But other than that, you'll love every second of it. It's glorious.
All right.
It's amazing looking at the guy who plays the police officer.
Mm-hmm.
How many films that he did, even though he only lived till he was 40.
Oh, wow.
They were doing like 10 films a year. Is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Studio system, yeah. Now, can we just all pause and appreciate how gloriously gorgeous Anne Shirley is? Look at those eyes, those just expressive big eyes. Oh, she's just gorgeous. Again, the age differences. Oh, good.
Even with the glasses.
I love
like he slyly locks the door. You like the what?
I like the asymmetric hat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
her crooked little
you
nose.
can tell she's trying so hard to, and she's trying so hard to be, appear as somebody different. Gets a little move. So he was 40 when this film was released. So he's about 39 when he shot it or whatever, shot it. And she's, I think, 27 at the time. But I like the fact that everybody calls him a young man. Like, that's right. 40 is young. Nobody forget it.
But I remember when I was watching this, and I thought she reminds me of Gloria Graham and Olivia de Havilland a little bit.
I could see that. Yeah.
But you're right, beautiful girl, and this is her last film.
Yeah, she did most of her stuff when she was younger. Yeah.
This was the last thing she ever did. She just did others. She just went on to have a life.
Man,
now he's looking for this Velma from Moose, who was a redhead.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about her being a redhead here. So we got all this kind of mystery and red herrings, possibly, or whatever from the start. So
red herrings.
Red herring. I thought you did there.
I didn't even get. How did I not see that I got that? Good job. So this was a good decision on the screenwriter Paxton, I think his name is, part of consolidating this, because in the book she was like the daughter of some ex-police chief who was just kind of like tenuously related to the situation or whatever. So it's much better making her the daughter of the Mr. Grail, and it's his new wife that lost the jade necklace. Consolidates everything. And there's the gas rationing, right, Al?
Mm-hmm. I love the description he does of this house.
Mm-hmm.
There's the globe again.
Yep. And we got this architecture, the sculptures. Like his little, yeah, just showing
that
up
on
playful
tile floor twos all the time.
And now Mrs. Claire Trevor, who is a perfect femme fatale. Look at the way that that's introduced. I mean, that turning around and giving him that sort of scowl, and you got the exposed leg. That is femme fatale from head to heel. That is just perfect.
I get kind of lost in the knees there.
For her pose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Now we have Moose Malloy, young, strong, stupid. You've got Mr. Marriott, who was very sort of dandy-ish. Now we've got Mr. Grail there, who is very intelligent, but older, intelligent, and completely out of touch. Like, I mean, you've got a wife who looks like that sitting there and another man ogling her, and he just barely kind of pays any attention to it. You know, it's like you got all these extremes now, especially when you think of, and I love we got Anne in depth of field back there staring at Marlowe as he stares at Mrs. Grail there, that kind of triangle there.
Also, compare the posture of the two women on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Tells you a great deal about the characters.
Yeah. In all of these rooms too, there's some interesting lamps, and there's flowers that appear in every room in some way or the other. And the flower in this room is on Mrs. Grail there. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, there's one in her hair too, but I didn't notice that one right away.
Yeah. And you do get the idea of her kind of being portrayed as sort of a forbidden fruit kind of aspect, you know, which obviously she's another man's wife.
Yeah,
but she's
I was
also
just going to say.
the temptress, you know, femme fatale aspect.
And you could feel Anne back there seething a little bit.
Well, I think we talked over it a little bit, but there's that one, as soon as he notices her leg there and she covers it up, you cut back to Anne and her father, and you see Anne saw that and turns away disgusted from him that he was looking there.
But I'm telling you, Anne, I much prefer Anne, though.
She's gorgeous, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a femme fatale. Let us dispense with the polite drinking and then just chugs it.
Yeah.
Well, again, from her posture, you could tell she'd already had a couple.
Yeah.
Agent Boomer saying she has nice gams.
Yep.
Nice gams with squid, right?
So Torrin Clear said Anne Shirley was married to Adrian Scott, who was the producer of the film. He ended up getting blacklisted, and that was the end of their marriage. She ended up married to Marion Davis's nephew.
Oh. You know, now that you mentioned it, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I didn't know about that with her husband there, but Edward Dmytryk, the director, he went on to do another couple films that were really classics. but then the Red Scare comes after him as well and blacklists him for a while, and he never really bounces back from it, as a lot of artists did, which is really sad. Talk about censorship in art.
Mm-hmm.
How long? What was the time frame of the Red Scare?
I don't have the years right off the bat on my memory. Let me look that up.
Because I thought it went up to, didn't it go up to Reagan, the Reagan era?
Well,
not official McCarthyism.
But yeah.
The official McCarthyism was kind of through the 50s, towards the endish of the 50s. But yeah, Cold War was definitely Reaganism and everything stuff. And
of course, when you're talking McCarthyism, you're usually talking about the second Red Scare, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everybody was a communist. And,
you know what?
I
think the reason, I'm sorry, I think the reason why I was thinking Reagan, I was thinking when he was an actor. Not when he was president.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Gotcha.
Yeah. But the thing is, now I'm sorry, you guys have touched on real history, and you got
that's okay. Go for it. That's why you're here.
It is an area that's worth reading about, because we all tend to look at McCarthyism like, oh, it's just a big, witch hunt, and it was all. Unfortunately, what we have found out since they have started declassifying documents is there was something to it. There really was communists trying to insinuate themselves into our government, into our pop culture, into Hollywood. It really was true.
And is not
comes
pleased.
In, not happy. Shut.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I have a really hard time getting really that. She's attractive, but when she starts getting a little sloppy, I'm not quite as attractive as she was at first.
Yeah.
When of course, when we see toward the end happening, I think back to this line earlier that she says, "I am fond of my husband." That doesn't say much.
Yeah. Fond of him.
Anyone can say I'm fond of someone.
Exactly.
And what is it about him that you're fond of?
Professor.
Sorry, Al. I'm too busy looking at your leg.
As you should.
I sent you that picture of his foot the other day.
No. All right, now, Troy, you recognize Amthor?
I do.
Troy should recognize him from CoverGirl.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
He was the rich guy, the old rich guy who...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right, though. I would not have recognized him, though. Very good.
Otto Kruger, I remember, I know him from Dracula's Daughter.
Yes, there. He was also there.
May I ask about the...
Sorry, someone had to. Go on.
Well, the question wasn't directed to you, Troy.
Fair enough. But you didn't specify who you were asking either.
The flower, the carnation on his lapel. Now, is the flower signifying a kind of a feminine trait or high class?
Definitely high class, right? Because Amthor is not feminine. But there's also it does link him a little bit to her, because they both have white flowers, different kinds of flowers, white flowers. And she's a femme fatale. She's dangerous. She's a high class, but she's dangerous. And we'll see that Amthor himself is a kind of dangerous. By the end, I mean, again, don't want to spoil it too much for people who might be disregarding our rewatch and watching it for the first time. But it is the two of them are very similar in terms of wealthy, trying to do a lot of machinations, pull things behind the scenes, and they're dangerous people to know. So you got this flower motif going already that links them, and we'll see what else we can find links them as we go through. But yeah, it's a good point. It's a good observation.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
I like this mirror shot here too.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that in the 40s that was considered a nice build for guys.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one to notice that.
Need to work on those pecs, buddy.
But yeah, the mirror hanging down from the wall a little bit, as a mirror would, gives the room that skewed effect a little bit. But the room itself, his room in general, is unlike any of the other houses that he's been in, right? The other houses are kind of exaggerated with the angles. His is pretty much straight on. It's shot straight on because this is his home. It's only in the mirror when she comes in that you get that slant, that tilt, right? Because she brings that funhouse effect with her.
And if I can make a slight defense of the masculine figure of the day, keep in mind that what was well, our perceptions of what is considered attractive in men has changed. Back then, if you were muscle bound, you were immediately seen as being, like I said, muscle bound, dumb. You were focused on your body. Even as counterintuitive as it may seem, there was homosexual implications to it.
Yeah.
This is working class. This is respectable. He wasn't working on it. This was just how he looked naturally. There's something to that, from that point of view.
Also, big guys, you just look at them as, oh, that's a thug.
Yeah, there's that aspect too. Yeah.
It puts me in mind of a principle you see in a lot of classic Greek art, but then I remembered that Sound Engraver's with us tonight, so I think I'll leave off and not go into it.
It's your channel. Please don't let me stop you.
Well, someone asked in an art class one time, and I thought they were just being stupid, but the actual professor had a great answer for it, and it turns out that it's true, But it was art appreciation, and we're going through the Greek era and looking at a lot of the great statues. And I think he was trying to be funny. He's like, how come all the naked guys are so small, quote unquote? And, he's trying to be funny or whatever. But the really answer was with the Greeks, they believed in balance. So it's kind of like you said with this time in the 40s, not quite the same, but it's just culturally. Yeah. So the Greeks believed if you look at their renditions of the satyrs in the forest, right. they're licentious and they're pictured as very well endowed because they're really stupid. That's like if a picture of somebody like that means they're dumb, but a picture of somebody on the opposite means they're incredibly intelligent. So all of the great athletes or great Greek gods would be shown in that manner or whatever. And it is an interesting cultural kind of measure.
I can't
believe you prefaced all of that with my not approving. I was totally fine with something like that.
Well, I was very politic with my language too.
Oh, okay.
Plus, as Al just proved, I know that he's here for a follow-up, and as he just said, trying so hard not to make a joke.
Trying not to make a joke. Trying not to point out how
I'll just look at the pretty woman in front of the screen.
Well, there was a scene in Charade that came up that I looked at Nanette looked at me, and we held our breath, and at the end of the thing I was like, whew, Al didn't say anything.
What was that?
I'm not going to bring it up now, so you can talk about it.
Never mind, Al. You don't need to know now.
Oh, I like this bar they went in because I was talking over it, but that first thing was the spotlight with the exotic dancer there, from a different country, different, that kind of thing, different culture, the bamboo hanging all over everything. So again, just like every set, every building he goes into is like another room in the funhouse as the mystery progresses. And the fact that Mrs. Grail brought him there just to disappear and basically to be there for Moose to, find or whatever, is interesting. And again, Moose he doesn't even know that he's hurting him by grabbing his arm, No, but I want you to meet a guy.
Love that. I love Moose's suit.
Yeah. The flannel,
the other thing that makes him look like a tough guy is the broken nose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
he looked like a tough guy without the broken nose.
True. He was.
He was what? You cut out for a second.
He was a wrestler. Yeah, that's pro wrestling.
This penthouse building here, that establishing shot of it, because of the scale, just looking up at it, you had that sort of Dracula's castle effect, kind of look to it. And I apologize, chat. I've been just like so into the movie and talking. I apologize for not paying much attention to you. Let me go back and see if anybody's saying something here recently or tagging me or whatever. My bad. Didn't mean to just ignore you. Just really got into the movie and the whatnot.
Oh,
Joseph said,
oh, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just going to bring up what Wolf 10 Media saw, but go ahead because I lost the comment.
Somebody said that Moose Malloy was in a Hitchcock movie too. I'm sure he was. He's one of those faces, you've seen him everywhere. But
he's been in a ton of things.
And I wanted to bring up, actually, Wolf 10 Media says fascism and communism didn't die. It took root in the Frankfurt School and spread like a plague onto the youth.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true. Interesting to the point now where I guess I can say this, it's on my channel and everything, but in context of Sound Engraver's channel last night and everything, people who maybe at one time had been victimized for sort of a witch hunt like that are turning around, are the children of that movement or whatever, are turning around and using the same methods for anybody that opposes them.
Yep. Well, I love how you can call yourself an anti-fascist organization and specifically use fascist tactics to try to bring about fascism.
Yeah.
Can you guys run by me a timestamp?
Yeah, let me.
Yeah.
Somebody else might get it faster than I do, but I'll try and look it up.
I think, are we at the 40-minute mark? 40-24?
Yep.
40,
yep.
25?
Oh, man, I'm behind.
We're actually 28, 29.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you.
He just sat down in Amthor's penthouse.
Okay.
I'm looking through Mike Mazurki's
IMDb.
Yeah, well, Wikipedia, but God, he's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you've got you see it in a couple of the shots. Right now, we're doing medium shots between the two men as they sort of size each other up. Soon, one of them will stand up, and you'll kind of get an idea of who's really in power in the situation for the moment. But behind Amthor is a picture of Caesar on the wall, a statue of Caesar, a picture of a statue. But again, just these grand sculptures and whatnot. And you've got him, kind of this man who holds a lot of power in this world and has got a lot of, he's a general with a lot of people to command and a lot of avenues to move through. And I'm proud of myself that I made it this long, but I'm going to have to run to the little props room now. So I'll be right back.
Wow, 40 minutes.
Somebody mentioned the thing about wearing the flowers. I'm not sure who it was. I am a little surprised to see this particular character wearing a carnation, though. Carnations are generally thought of as simple, affordable. You'd think that he'd wear a rose instead, which is
I had heard that carnations were for the poor man or the common man.
Although not
Maybe
wearing one at all, would be even a rung lower.
Right.
I happen to like carnations. They're affordable and they smell good.
Yeah, carnations are my favorite flowers.
I dig that too, and I agree with you. I'm just saying that there is a cultural, coding to flowers in wearing them on a boutonniere.
I did a science project in second grade where I dipped white carnations in blue and red ink, and the ink would seep into the petals.
Yep.
It's really fun.
That's
nice.
That's generally how you do it when you see the veiny different colors in the white carnation when you get them at the shop. If they're completely colored, they're probably sprayed.
Yeah, I used to get them airbrushed when I wanted a different color.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be fun to see.
My favorite flower is the daffodil.
Cool.
Is there any particular reason? It was the way you said that.
I just think they're pretty.
They are. They're very pretty.
Very spring, Easterish kind of thing.
So like Sound Engraver, my favorite flower is carnations. My mom's were always roses. But it's like, I know this is going to sound gross, but every time I smell roses, I think funerals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I like wildflower. I like a field of wildflowers, all the different little things. And I like
lilacs
baby's breath.
Are my favorite.
Oh, baby's breath is nice.
So Big Moose he's so easily duped by everybody. I mean, he just hired Marlowe to find Velma, and then somebody else tells him, Well, he's not telling you, so he got duped him to take him by gunpoint to this guy's room. He's so. You remember I know it's a different detective, but in Maltese Falcon, when Sam Spade tells her, "I'm not going to play the sap for you," that's a sensitivity for all hardball detectives. They won't be made dupes of out of anybody. And Moose Malloy is like the nightmare of a hardball detective. They're so tough that they end up dumb.
Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have hit me.
That absolutely just traumatized me.
Right?
It's terrifying. Yeah, right. I mean, the way he's coming at you, with that face. Yeah, that's terrifying.
I like that a little more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let him breathe a little.
He's tame. Yeah, that's it really is perfect casting for Amthor because he's just talk about a dangerous man.
I mean, just his name in real life, Otto Kruger.
Yeah.
Very true. And I love the punch, he wasn't going to do that punching Amthor there isn't going to get him out of the situation, but it's just a matter of honor at that point, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And back into the pool.
Yep.
And goes dark again.
That cool animation effect. Now this is the dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll wake up in a second and we'll realize that they've been drugging him. But because it's a dream sequence, we could really go funhouse with it. So the effects, the surrealism.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I mean, just with the music going on, I mean, I was like, yeah, this is our Vienna of 1925.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. And with all the expressionist visuals too, this is what he's a detective, so all of these voices, the things they've said replaying in his head, looming perspectives of them, the doors within doors, the mystery within a mystery, it makes perfect sense. And the worst nightmare for a detective is somebody fogging up their cognitive abilities. They can do it with alcohol a little bit if they need to. That's one thing. But somebody coming after them with a drug that'll, put them out and make them dopey. That's like the worst nightmare for a hard-boiled detective.
And just that spider web effect.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I've had a history of hypotension, and so things can get really queasy. And when this bed scene coming up, man, I had to step aside and lay down because just with the visual effects, kind of the cobwebs and the way he's acting and perspiring, and it's like you probably he's been out for 3 days. He's dehydrated. I was like, I was taking this all in,
really relating to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've mentioned before. I had a weird drug interaction where I was sleeping for days.
Oh, really?
And I wouldn't eat, and my kidneys started to fail.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, that's why I really think my brain. I don't think I've been as cognitively sharp as I was before. I feel like a car where you're like just a tick off, or a computer that's kind of had a little bit too much time and was slowed down a little bit. It's kind of like that.
Well, you remind me of the quote in Jimmy Stewart's Harvey. He says, "In this world, you can either be really, really smart or really, really kind. I've been smart, and I recommend kind."
Yeah.
There you go.
I love that. I love that movie. That's a rewatch movie.
I know. I mentioned it because I know you talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted this visual gone. It was bothering me so badly.
Don't you feel like I need to clean that room?
I felt I don't have claustrophobia, but that's what I felt like. I felt what he was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just. Yeah. It could be because of the black and white picture too.
Yeah, I remember hallucinating, and like when I was on, I don't know what I was on, all kinds of stuff, but they had this border like right below the ceiling in the hospital room, and it had flowers, and the flowers were literally dancing.
Oh my gosh!
They were like swirling and moving and twisting. It was really weird. I was like, wow, this is what it's like.
And what kind of medication were you on again?
Oh, everything. Morphine.
And where can I get some?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Have a spinal surgery, man. You'll find out.
Steven Cruz says this film is amazing. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are
Right?
enjoying it. And because I mean, you're having this much of a visceral reaction to effects from 1944. It shows you you don't need the money for the computer, high tech, whatever. If you do anything artistically, you'll
This
get
is what
it.
frustrates me about movies today. It's all about the spectacle. And if it's not there specifically to enhance the story, then you're going about it all wrong.
Yeah, I think this is the first visceral reaction I've had in a long time with a movie. And I was like, that's the strange thing. I was feeling what Marlowe was feeling. I mean, just seeing him stagger out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the point of the medium unless it makes you feel that way, right? I mean, otherwise you might as well just read the book.
Right.
And I like him talking himself through this, like stay off that bed, walk. You've got to, get your mind straight. You've got to keep going. You've got to, Now, I know obviously you don't need to go into this or anything lengthy, but you keep saying hypertension, Son of Graver. Now, isn't that basically just
no,
high blood pressure?
Hypotension.
No, hypotension.
Okay, gotcha. Something different completely. That clears up so many things because every time you talk about hypertension, I'm like, that's just blood pressure. What is she talking about?
No,
okay, it's something. Yeah, okay, I got you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it'll drop if I get a visceral reaction to something. So something as simple like a movie scene. It can really make me I'm better about it now. It used to be really bad.
What she's basically saying is if she gets emotional enough, she may swoon.
I have swooned and it's not romantic. It's
not. If it's true, it's not at all.
You gotta those beds have to be hefty made if a spring can be used for stuff like that.
Man.
Have when you never had to disassemble I had a bed like that with the springs.
Yeah, those are strong springs.
Yeah.
They don't make beds like that anymore, man.
Oh, I love that shot of just all the shadow and the stairs.
Yeah, again, that depth of field that Dmytryk loves.
And this is just like playing a video game. What does he do? He uses the spring to knock the guy out, and he trades up and takes the blackjack.
Yeah.
Now he'll use the blackjack to knock somebody out to take their gun.
Yeah, it is a video game.
I do want to say that picture.
They're cool.
Just that still shot of the shadows and the stairway at the distance. I mean, that looks like a photo of some expressionistic art.
Right?
Yeah. Look up. If you watch the Gollum or some of those old German expressionistic movies and stuff too. And because, we're still in his head, which even though he's clear now and can move around and whatnot, he's still affected.
Yep.
So it makes sense that the room
saw
was
him
in the
holding
stair.
on to that banister as he's going down.
Yeah. And this is as close to a Dracula's castle in this kind of world as you could get.
Sure.
Somebody who's going to hold you as a prisoner and dope you up and keep you, under lock and key. Just mad scientist, basically.
Now, Professor, can you clarify his role, this doctor's role in the story?
So he is supposedly what he's posing as is a doctor of a treatment home, for people who have addictions or need to get over, this and that. So that's what he's claiming, that he's treating Marlowe for, a drug overdose or a drug addiction or something like that. Of course, he's been pumping him full of drugs to keep him duped like that. So he's on the payroll of Amthor, though. That's basically what you find out. Because,
okay.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what just happened. He used the blackjack to get a gun.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you were just describing exactly what was going to happen.
I'd forgotten about this scene. I totally had forgotten.
Matchstick, I'm not going to assign a story for Thursday. Like I was saying, I'm going to do some reading, maybe a little bit about a couple things, and also talking. I'll let you come on to talk about your anime. Do a commercial there, and we'll do a few things. Haven't really even planned everything that's going to go on Thursday. Just kind of get things ready. Take a little break from everybody having to read weekly.
Oh, I hear the banshees calling.
Now, banshees, he says banshees, but he means sirens because he says dance in the foam of the ocean, you know? That's what he's
Oh, that's what he meant by foam.
Yeah.
I started hyperventilating when I saw the spider webs again. I was like, oh no, he's gonna collapse.
And it's a good visual to show you that he's getting woozy again. It doesn't just have to be his acting. It can show you, you know.
No kidding.
And it's frightening with the doctor's eyes. You know, he sees what's happening and he kind of leans in. There's a danger again.
And then it just vanishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, smacks himself out of it. Tie a ribbon on it. Basically, just show me the door, the key to the door.
Yeah, just wait a few seconds to pick up the phone so he doesn't notice.
I know, right? I like his line here. Bet the ladies have a great time with you. Look at this angle, and we can't even see him through the trees at first. We still got bars around him in terms of the fence.
Heel toe, heel toe.
That's okay. Boos will come after you. But yeah, that's what's terrifying about Moose is he wants what he wants when he wants it, and he'll use his strength to get it. But you know, and it's just like, yeah.
And I like just he appears,
just like he did the first time, looming over him. Yeah, much the same way. Now that phrase "making love" that back in the day that meant romancing.
Yeah,
completely different today because I always have to explain it to my students. There's we'll watch something or read something, say you know, making love to them, and they're like, "What?" You know, like, no, it just meant like schmoozing, romancing, courting. You know. Moose, the stealth expert. You know, it's funny in the book he is described, you know, crazy strong like this, really dense, but also really quick. Like at first, Marlowe thinks he might be able to get away, this and that, but he's got cat-like reflexes in conjunction with his strength. I'd like you to take my friend.
Sure. That's not that anymore.
Exactly. His brain was working. I don't know what happened to it, but it was working. So he wants to go home, but he can't. But remember, Anne, of course, left him her address to her apartment when on that coaster. So again, this sort of bird's eye shot.
Barcelona court. That is not ADA compliant.
What?
Well, this was a little bit before those laws were passed.
Oh, I know. I was just joking around.
Now look at her home.
Right.
It's elegant, but it's clean, and it kind of strikes a balance between his home, which was very sparse, practical, but level on the angles. Hers is level on the angles, but it's also got a touch of elegance, you know. So it's like that. Again, it's that masculine meets feminine, and her character's kind of the answer to the femme fatale. You don't always have a character like her in a film noir or a hardboiled detective fiction. It's rare, but she was even there in the book as well. You know, the balance, the other side of the femme fatale is the real, true, loyal, pure-hearted, you know, that you can trust. You know, it's a different type you don't always see, but it's cool when you do.
Well, it's like his place also looked more like a hotel room than like an apartment.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's very sparse.
Yeah.
There are also angles, from the mold and the scaling up to the corner of the roof, and also the lines of the walls and of the doors as well.
Yeah, and you don't really see those angles. Everything's pointing up, the doors, like you said there, and you don't see the roof angles until he sees her from the couch, realizing, oh, I've seen you before. That moment of, he has that funhouse moment in her home, realizing he's seen her before.
Like that vaulted ceiling.
Yeah. I love that hairstyle she has too, that 40s bounce,
That crooked nose.
It's a lot of work though. It's spending a lot of time with curlers.
How did you, out of all of us, you the one that knows that?
No. Troy and Annette, you I learned this from the rewatch. They know their hair and makeup.
I just say it's funny that the bald guy is the one who knows hair.
Costumers.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do know a lot of people that work like the Run Fair, and they know how to do hair.
Yeah. So she's deeply loyal to her father, which makes sense why she hates her, stepmother, because she knows she hurts him all the time.
Yep.
Now, as far as the father to her, you could see an attachment, but I didn't see much love he had to her.
No, you're supposed to get the idea. I think you're right that he neglects her for his new wife, because he even says later, he says, only two things matter to me, my wife and my necklace. And he goes, oh, and of course my daughter,
Right.
But then he even says after that, he says, but the greatest of these is my wife. So yeah, you do have her kind of neglected. There's a little bundle by the name of Nolte who's playing Not Looking Like a Cop. I love the way that the detectives always describe the police, as numbskulled or which is just to do with the power struggle between the independent investigator and the police detective. It's not really a comment on police in general, because even though for the American monomyth, the institutions established have to be powerless, you still do have this sense of respect between the hardball detective and at least certain police officers. There are ones that they'll commonly work with or different things like that. You see that with Marlowe a lot. Mr. Messi said The Wolf Among Us. Is that the Telltale? I do actually have that. Is that Bigby the Wolf, the Telltale game? I actually have that, but I haven't started it yet. But that would make sense, because Bigby was sort of the private investigator of the Fabletown. So yeah, I'll have to pick that up. Or opened it up. I've got it. I just haven't played it. He grabs that match.
Yeah,
Me first. Ever since our conversation last time, Sound and Grave were talking about how she grew up watching things from this era with the smoking being elegant. Like, yeah, I wish smoking was elegant. Like, I did have a pipe once. I tried smoking once or twice, but I would just cough too much after smoking it, even though I didn't inhale. It was just.
I tell you what, the most I've ever thought about wanting to try to smoke has been since I saw Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, old Toby.
little old Toby.
Oh, that.
One of those long
I was thinking either the pack of orcs or Aragorn with a pack of cigarettes. I was like, how did Lord of the Rings?
There's no cigarettes in that. Yeah.
I can't stand the smell of cigarettes or cigars, but pipe tobacco smells really nice.
Yeah, it can smell really nice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get one of those long, Hobbit type pipes, wizard pipes.
What I love about this with Anne Shirley's character is she dresses so modestly, but she's still very, very feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I think the reason for that is, I think you picked up on it perfectly, but that's the reason, because she's supposed to be juxtaposed with the femme fatale.
Mm-hmm.
She's the good feminine, not dangerous, the loyal, the helpful, heroic in her own manner.
Here, open this.
Like she's opening coffee and he says something to the effect of, why don't we just make this with brandy and skip a step or something?
I think he said hold the water or something. We'll just do the scotch.
That actually sounds pretty good. I may try that one day.
That line that she just said to him, hey, you keep going, everybody saps you in the head, fills you full of drugs, but yet you keep going, you keep going. It's a great line. It's a great description of the detective figure, period, hard-boiled or regular, because they need to get to the bottom of the mystery no matter what. But it's also in the book, it comes towards the end. And
there you go.
There you go.
Just light the match on the butt of the.
And I like that little glance he does back to it before he. Those little lighthearted touches that Dick Powell was able to.
A little
bring
bit
to
of
the
look
character.
like sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that irreverence in the midst of all of the class that he's walking around and the money and stuff. Now, again, the father, so intelligent, but past his useful years, quote unquote, even though I think she only calls him 65 or something at this point. But that's, the other side of manhood past its usefulness, is just letting yourself be duped to the point where you might know and you might even have the money, but there's nothing you can do about it,
Oh, that door behind him is the same angle, cut of those angles as her apartment doors.
Yeah, the arrows. It's true.
Well,
I didn't notice that.
And it's clearly meant to show that connection.
Mm-hmm. Because this is his little home away from the mansion too, his little workshop,
Right.
So they both have this little relatable or accessible room, quote unquote, aside from the big, spacious, echoing mansion that's hard to understand or hard to navigate without a compass, as he says.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Shirley's eyes. I just get lost in those big eyes.
I keep looking at her nose.
Al loves that. Al loves that peculiarity.
Yes, I do.
So, trivia for you guys: the name Cameron for boy or girl actually means crooked nose. And so, if I have a Cameron for a student, I always feel bad.
Does it really?
I think it means crooked nose.
My niece is named Cameron, and I'm going to have so much fun with that.
Well, no,
because she's like, I love her to pieces, but she's right up there to like just about a teenager, and she snarks with me all over the place. We were outside the other day, and there's cows in a field next to the house, and I was explaining. They were asking, why are the cows like chewing? I said, oh, they they have a bunch of different stomachs, and they have to chew, to regurgitate and stuff like that. And she looked at me and goes, okay, farm boy. And he just walks away. She's always giving me little zingers like that. So I can't wait to use the crooked nose thing.
Well, double check, do some cross-referencing.
No,
I could be wrong.
You're right. It's Gaelic. It means crooked nose or crooked river.
I was trying to, they love their Roblox and all of those kind of online games. And I was trying to introduce her or interest her in my Star Wars, The Old Republic game. I was like, yeah, I've been playing one of those, but it's for Star Wars and this isn't that. And she looked at me and she says, you would. And walks away. I'm relevant. Oh.
I like this dialogue that he has. That I get shoved out of these things. People pay me.
Yeah.
That people trying to buy him off or buy him out, whatever it is.
And we saw that in Big Sleep too. How
right,
when you try to put the detective off the case, that just makes him want to find out more,
Now, is there any parallel to his dream sequence where he keeps going in door after door and the doors keep getting smaller?
That's what I think. See, this is a movie set in a bunch of different buildings, a bunch of different strange rooms, door after door, like you said. And that's one of the things. So the doors could be a sense of the mystery, and as they get smaller, they get harder to get through, but they also zero and focus down. And he's, going from the big grand mansion to these, now he's going to go to the beach house. So I do think it's part of the same theme of doors, of fun houses, of rooms. Is that what you're going for?
Wonderland.
Yeah. That's a good. Oh, that's also a good example. Alice in Wonderland with expressionist art.
Mm-hmm.
And she has kind of like a gold pin on her coat as opposed to a flower.
And what is that? Is it kind of like an acorn or something, or an?
I didn't see the shape clearly.
Have to check back if they do a close up. But now a house on the cliff again, literally like a castle on the cliff or something.
Kind of a slow descension of the very high strings. And actually, there's a technique. Well, not really technique, but it's called consordino, which is to apply a mute on the bridge of the stringed instrument. So you have that very hushed, very much kind of a French thing, but also just West Europe thing where it's just very muted. That's also used with Debussy's La Mer, next to the water.
Oh, okay.
So it has that effect.
That makes sense. And here we have, his comment recently about I'm standing in the foam and the banshees are calling to me, or the sirens or whatever. And this is kind of what literally happens. He ends up going next to the ocean, and a silken siren literally calls to him, in the femme fatale here.
Actually, that's straight out of Debussy's La Mer, where
cool.
You can imagine the ocean and the foam and kind of the dissension of the strings before it gets really violent, so to speak, in the orchestra.
That is perfect.
That white little statue behind him reminds me of Rondo Hatton.
Rondo Hatton? Who's that?
He was the Creeper in the Universal Monsters.
Oh, okay.
A real ugly guy with a weird nose.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Man, you with your noses.
Wow. Noses, feet. I go all over the place.
Now look at this lamp he's about to light. This is really interesting. It's basically like a tree. And again, we see a pivotal scene or a moment later with Mrs. Grail around that lamp, and it's that forbidden fruit. It's that, it's really interesting.
I have a question. We talk about the rooms and what are in these rooms, not just with this film, but with the previous films that we've seen. Was that a common technique back then in film, whether noir or anytime back in the 40s, for instance, where they had these set pieces that were symbolic of characters or places or ideas?
Well, it depends on the director and the film as to how much thought they put into this aspect or this aspect for certain symbolism or whatever. But yeah, they would work with set designers, to get their vision. Now, when you get back to some films, especially when it was closer to the studio era, you did have just a lot of reuse of certain things, So it depends on the director. If there's somebody that really moved into this sort of auteur style of really taking ownership of their movies and trying to put their own little touch on it, and it depends on the film. Like there's a movie a movie called Detour, in which they're mostly in a car, example. So it depends on the film, depends on, the director, but they can use things like actors' mannerisms, like we saw with Howard Hawks, or some of them can really lean more on architecture and set design and stuff. Just kind of depends. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is the perfect meeting of the femme fatale and the damsel, mocking her. Yeah, I can't make out what that brooch is.
It could just be a brooch,
a
amorphous blob.
What's kind of strange about these two characters is you have to remember that. I'm sorry, Mrs. Grail. Is that she is the stepmom, but they look like they're sisters.
Yeah. And that's part of it, that he married so young again. This is interesting how he works her, trying to get the full story. There's also the idea, he says it a couple times when they ask him, why are you still on this? because Marriott hired him to be a bodyguard and he failed in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sense of honor, like I've got to finish out. We saw that in The Big Sleep a little bit, with the father hired me. I've got to see this out and whatnot.
It is that sense of that sense of honor. I think that you or Troy mentioned, where I guess initially he wasn't going to agree to go along with him, but then he does, and Marriott gets killed. In the
like he keeps smelling the cigarettes and throwing them away. I guess he's just trying to find the right one. Whoa!
I noticed about her hair is when she was kind of flirting with him to get his attention. It was really ornate. And now it's more down and more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
more bedroom.
Yeah, it's not so done up.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's done up. I would love my hair to look like that.
I love that line. I imagine they meet you halfway. She said, "I like men." He's like, "I imagine they meet you halfway." Great line. But yeah, that sense of that code of honor, any good hardball detective has to have some kind of code of honor. It has to do with being the loner. Even Conan the Barbarian has a code of honor. As barbaric as he is, there's a code there. And you have to have some sort of code if you're going to be the loner who operates against or outside of, common systems or common rules. The reader has to be able to latch onto you somewhere, even if part of the fun is the fact that you don't listen to the rules or obey the rules. You still have to, like Conan the Barbarian, there's a great line about, barbarians are more civil than, our civil men are more discourteous than the barbarian because they know they can be so without having their skulls split as a general, reason for it or something or consequence.
I actually like what Nanette also said about her hair down, because we'll see later that it won't be down.
Yeah. She puts it up later. Well, it's true because she's right here. This is her big play to try to get a man to murder for her, and by the end we find out she's done this before, and the doll up and everything, that's part of the game. And then this is where the trap is really laid, where it's just comfortable and relaxed and it's sort of this bedroom kind of style,
that not quite similar, but it's kind of the same treatment with Sam Spade, where I forget the woman's name.
I can't think of it right now that we're talking about it.
So many characters. But where what's that?
Some chick.
Yeah.
Some chick.
Astor is her name. the
Mary
actress'
Astor,
name. Yeah. But that she didn't expect Sam Spade in the end to turn everyone into the police. So it might be that same thing with this character where like, oh, maybe you can do some dirty work. You're not really of the police.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's kind of that misinterpreted or not interpreted, but a different kind of trust, a misleading trust.
It's a failed trap. Yeah.
Right.
And you even on that couch that they're sitting on when she springs it looks like a clam that you reach in for the pearl, but it's going to shut, it's its own little trap.
That's why I never reach for pearls. I'm terrified about clam getting.
Even when there's no clam, I never go for the pearl. I always like the big ocean clam things that they always show in like a film.
Mm-hmm.
Like 5 feet across, it'll eat you.
Wolfton Media is asking for my thoughts on Sin City. I never read the comics, but I understand they're pretty great. The first movie I thought was wow. I mean, you really have to be of the sensibility to enjoy it, but really was quite something. Never read the comics though, and I never saw the sequel they did, or second one. Now he's playing her, obviously, if you know the character.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Now, if you just watch the movie cold and don't know anything about him, you might think, oh my gosh, is he really going along with this? But as soon as he leaves, he puts his motion in or plan in action else in a different way.
What was that whole, I I'm so lost. I need help. You have to help me. It's like, oh,
Exactly.
come on, girl.
And of course, right when she leaves, she gives that little devious smile.
Now the scene where he's about to pick up the flower and smell it and toss it has a lot more meaning.
Right? Yeah.
Again, this is why I'm terrified of moose.
Yeah. But as he says later, he says, I don't think you meant to kill him. I don't think you do mean to kill, but you don't know your own strength, and
well, that's what makes it terrifying, because he is off.
Yeah.
He doesn't really know his world. It's almost like brute and a savant at the same time.
Yeah. It's like was it Lenny in Of Mice and Men?
Yep.
Yeah.
That I'm glad you said that. I was thinking earlier, I was like, I could see him doing that role.
So he does smell a lot of things. Like you say, he was smelling the cigarettes. He smells the flowers. He smells perfume. When he first walked in, he smelled Mrs. Grill's perfume because he asked if that was Anne. And then later he'll smell Anne's too. So they got that sort of, they're onto the scent, when it comes to the mystery.
I should have recognized that face in the portrait. I'm kind of mad that I didn't pick that up.
What's that?
The face in the portrait.
In the portrait?
Velma.
That picture.
Oh, well, it's actually not the same woman.
Is it not?
No, because he asked him here, and they were trying to put him off on it. Because he'll say in a second, "Is this Velma?" He said, "I didn't think it was." They tried to put him off on it. So yeah, you try and make it look like it, in your mind unconsciously because you think they should be. But yeah, you weren't wrong not to pick it up.
Huh.
They asked her, see. Yeah, see, so it's a
oh, okay. All righty.
No, she was cute. Oh, that clears it up. Okay. Good description. You should work with police artists. I like the way he's standing there with his big meaty fists, coiled still.
Yeah. But when he says that, I get what he means, because there is a true difference between beautiful, cute, pretty. But I mean, they are all different. They are different.
And yeah, he's terrifying, but at the same time, it's like, poor Moose. Big dumb guy just couldn't see that a woman was using him. He has a pure adoration for her, and he wants to pay him. I'd like to pay him more money for finding her. Oh, dope! I'm out of money. It's
like the who was that character in the last movie we saw with I'm forgetting these characters' names.
They're running together, I know.
Right. Jones, Wilmer, but Jones.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Harry Jones, yeah.
Yeah, Harry Jones. So it's where you're calling them to be like their stooges, like these women, the stooges of these manipulative women.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of the same theme here.
Absolutely. And it is a common.
Yeah, this guy here, the big brute guy, he reminds me of that Bugs Bunny cartoon. It's like, I will name him George. I will pet him and keep him and love him.
Oh, yeah.
That's a reference
of Lenny.
Yeah.
From Of Mice and Men.
Yeah. Exact same character type. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the connection.
Because the other character is George. George and Lenny.
Yeah. I love her just staying there smoking in the dark. And so we had this smoke that screened everything and he couldn't see because of the smoke in his vision before. And now you've just got that wonderful image of her. You can't see her, but all you see is the smoke she's blowing around her. Perfect way to introduce her. And as you said, her hair's all up now because she's ready to lure in Amthor with him and stuff.
Yeah, because now she's being the Black Widow. Whereas before, with her hair down, it was more, I'm helpless. Look how demure I am.
I'll have to look for that cue. like for other characters too. That's great.
Yeah, it's interesting.
There is a sense of, I guess, to add on to Nanette's comment about that, a sense of vulnerability with the hair down.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the 40s when, women, you walked outside, you had your hair up, unless you were a loose woman. He turns that lamp on and boom, she's right there offering him the jade. I love her shirt too, the shimmering, the glimmer, her blouse there,
Yeah, the way the camera's picking it up is really kind of surreal.
And again, that's you said it, surreal, that theme that Dmytryk's going for in this with the angles, with the lighting and everything, and to put her in a clothing like that plays like that with the camera, and she's trying to dupe him. She's trying to pull an illusion on him.
And the smoke is still rising, kind of making her face kind of opaque. That imagery.
Yeah, great point. So you get Marriott's involvement too. I love his face when she tries to play the, oh, I'm so sad.
Doesn't he say, he says a line saying, I'm not following it for a second time?
Yeah, because he fell for it going with Marriott the first time, and she sapped him. She was the one that knocked him over the head. So he's like, I'm not going to do it again here. You can't do that to me again.
Although she has a pretty clever technique. That comes in.
Sound engraver, if it makes you feel any better, that one is not a hairpiece. However, I would argue she could not do that hairstyle herself.
Oh no, she had a hairdresser.
Absolutely.
I don't feel so bad with my alfalfa hair.
It's alfalfa.
Now he brought up Moose, and now she knows he's onto her. It's nice timing when he's about to open the curtain, and that would call Moose in, but then she pulls the gun on him, and it's like, oh, so close, right? Now he takes the cigarette from her, so he takes the smoke away. He just revealed everything, and he takes it from her.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this for female villains, they know the way female villains disarm is by emotion and pleading.
Mm-hmm.
That is one way to disarm a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you got that male compulsion to protect the female.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a great scene in the book that was cut. It should have been cut because it was too extraneous, but they introduce or interview a neighbor of this person, this little old lady who's kind of nosy and like watches everything in the neighborhood, and they catch her in a lie so she can just kind of feel like she's giving more juicy thoughts or whatever gossip. And instead of admitting that she's lied, she goes in the back room and starts to cry, and the line is something like some man fell for that cry at one point, or was supposed to work on men at some point, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that emotional manipulation.
I love that he reaches for his gun, realizing that she has it.
Yep. Now, that's like the worst thing, a woman took his gun. The hard-boiled detective, he's trying to lay it all out and get the truth out. So we get a little bit of a reveal here for the father. How he knows, and he's always known a lot more than she knew he did, but he's allowed it to go along because he loved her so much.
That kind of ties in with his supposed fear of publicity too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now you've got Anne kind of coming to the realization too that her father, that she loved and was so loyal to, isn't exactly, even though she still loves him, obviously, but he's not, not the most innocent person she thought he was, even though he's going to kind of redeem himself here in a second. The aspect of him being blinded. Now we find out that he's temporary blinded, we'll see it happen here in a second. But you think about, okay, what could that mean? Now he's a detective. He's actually the one who sees. So it can't mean that he's blind and, the wool's pulled over his eyes or anything like that. It can't mean that literal because he's the detective. So, okay, what kind of things are blind? Well, justice is blind, for one thing. And he's the one who actually brings justice to the situation by deciding this and that. He doesn't do the shooting there, of course, but he solves the mystery. But then also, I think even more so, we've got all this kind of imagery of the Greek mythology, with the ornate, Art Deco sculptures and everything like that. I think he's the blind poet, the blind. You see a lot of tragedies. The blind. The blind poet who is the blind prophet, rather, not poet, the blind prophet, who always calls out the truth and sees through people and stuff like that. And as he's giving the whole story at the end, I think it kind of recalls a little bit of that too, because you've got so many references to these grander mythologies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who's it? Tyrus? Forget his name. And in Oedipus and so forth. Or Aeschylus. And now you're like, oh crap, because this is, you don't want him getting angry that his woman's finally sees her and she's dead. And you can't help but feel sorry for him here, even though you're still terrified of him. Cute as lace pants. Oh. So now, and this is a circumstance that Marlowe didn't mean to orchestrate. But he's powerless to stop it, right? And there we go. So apparently, like, the powder of the gun has scorched his eyes, which would blind him for a time before it heals. And that black pool once again. So now we're back with that shot again of the light on the table, reflecting on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll tell you we're back at the beginning scene of him telling him. And so a little bit similar to like Maltese Falcon when he tells the whole story and the police, although here they're not like upset. They just kind of needed all the answers before they let him go or off the hook. So the thing is, he doesn't know who was shot. He heard the shots, but doesn't know precisely. Get out of here and out of my hair. So the old man too. And now you got the reveal of her. She was in the room the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. They were going to let him go away with the jade necklace. And he just gives it away, just gives it back. Money's been driving him the whole, well, at least getting him into the cases. He decided to take the money from Moose to do the case. He decided to take the money from Marriott to do the case, but in the end, he gives it back. It's a little bit of an arc for his character, not chasing the money. And instead of the money, thinking about her. I didn't know. You must be low on vitamins. Didn't notice her figure. You must be low on vitamins.
Sunday school picnic.
And I like her following this sort of like angelic presence, very quiet, not making any noise, you know. And I do love the ending for this too.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't quite know until she brushes against him and he starts to smell that perfume. And I love his line.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Take the gun out.
That's just perfect. I love that.
Right.
In the book, their last talk was her saying that line to him about, you know, you're so wonderful and you're always shot and full, you know, sapped and full of drugs and you still do the right thing. Like, why do you do it? And he makes some sort of smart aleck remark and she says, I want to be kissed, damn you. And that's how that kind of plays out. But I like it better like this, the you know, Nolte, I want to be kissed. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the famous ending of Some Like It Hot, although that was quite a different scenario, but still.
True.
So good film. Glad you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it anyway.
Good.
Great choice.
I really like that.
Cool. I'm glad. So Stephen Cruz for $2 said fantastic film. Awesome choice, Prof. I am very glad. I'm so glad everybody liked it because I love these Tuesday night noirs. I'm having a lot of fun with them. And so I want to talk a little bit about next week and see what you guys think. And you guys on the panel here, you guys please chime in as well. So this Saturday, Big Al's doing Clash of the Titans for the normal weekend rewatch.
Yep.
Next week though, not Tuesday but Saturday, I was scheduled for the Saturday rewatch, so I'm going to do Hitchcock's Vertigo because I've been looking into movies from Hitchcock that kind of example the Jungian anima and animus. So we're going to do Vertigo that weekend, and the follow up on that Tuesday is going to be Notorious.
Yep.
Both of these are Hitchcock thrillers, just psychological thrillers. Jimmy Stewart is in Vertigo, and it's wonderful. It's just a great movie. But because I've got that one coming up on Saturday, I didn't know if people need a break and want to skip the rewatch next week, which I understand. I'm totally good for that. Or if everybody really, really wants to still do one, and people who want to show up can show up, and the people who need a break can take a break or whatever, we can do. I've got two ideas in mind, but our three.
I thought you were going to do Double Indemnity.
Well, the original plan was Double Indemnity, but then I realized that we also have the rewatch coming that weekend, so I just wanted to give people an option. If we need a break, we can do a break. Double Indemnity marks a hard turn away in terms of our watching order, a turn away from the hard-boiled detective and into in fiction what's called the Roman noir, but it's just all part of regular film noir. But there's no hard-boiled detective; it's just straight up film noir. It's a brilliant movie. Billy Wilder, Fred McMurray, Barbara Stanwyck, and whatnot. So that we could go ahead and turn away from the hard-boiled detective. If we're not really finished with the hard-boiled detectives, we've got Kiss Me Deadly, which is a great follow-up to these Chandler and Hammett ones we've been looking at. So a couple options and stuff like that out there. But what do you guys think here on the panel first, and let people in the chat type in their thoughts too. But,
I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a hard time expressing a preference. I'm just enjoying the journey, to be honest with you.
Cool. All right.
I think Double Indemnity, I think, would be really, really good for me to see. Just personally.
Okay.
I'll definitely look at the composer for this one because I think he was involved with different people. That would be interesting.
Well, yeah, let's just go ahead and do that then, and we'll come back. We'll definitely do Kiss Me Deadly. I know people have asked for that, and that's definitely one I'm wanting to do too. But I think it'd be good to go ahead and do Double Indemnity next week then on Tuesday, and that's a Billy Wilder film, and that's the other film I said that a lot of people cite The Maltese Falcon as the first film noir. Others cite Double Indemnity by Billy Wilder. And that has a screenplay written by Raymond Chandler. It's not his original story. It's a James Cain novel, but Chandler writes the screenplay, and it's an incredible film. Really is a solid film, great film noir. So that'll be for Tuesday. Then we'll go ahead and settle on that.
What's really cool is that I'm being exposed to films that I may have heard of them, but I've never seen them, and they're really great films.
Yeah,
I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's really fun. So I'm having a blast too. As long as everybody wants to do it, I'm more than happy to do it. I'm loving this retrek through the noir stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this Thursday, something on my channel about the book study. Really be a little talk about some stuff. Maybe I'll read a short story. I don't know. I haven't even 100% decided exactly everything's going to happen there. But that's Thursday. It won't be too terribly long, as Thursdays aren't. But next Thursday, of course, we'll start Scoundrels by Timothy Zahn. So the first 5 chapters of that. But this Saturday, Al. Oh no, actually, what's is Fan Man doing? What's he doing this Friday? Do you know? Has he decided?
I think he was leaning towards a Fan Man tonight.
Okay, Fan Man tonight, Friday.
Just to talk. And
then Clash of the Titans on your channel.
Oh, you did Fan Man.
Yeah, it's true. Who knows?
I do know his Second Cup Cafe. He didn't do it today. He's having a little crazy time. So he said he's going to have it tomorrow.
Oh,
and
cool.
Possibly, I don't know if he's going to do it on Thursday also, but if he has it tomorrow, I'm sure he'll let us know.
I like the twice a week thing.
Yeah.
What?
I like the twice a week thing he has.
Yeah, I think that's good. I like that. Saturday, Clash of the Titans, 1981. Ray Harryhausen, of course, his glorious work, very prevalent in that film.
Good. And nothing Sunday night that I know of. Oh no, Sunday. I'm sorry, Matchstick. I know. Yeah, Matchstick is just put in the chat here too.
He's just doing it every other Sunday.
Oh, every other Sunday. Okay, so next. So
he said the 28th. He's doing
28th. Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell and Perfect Blue.
And Perfect Blue. Those are both really good. I like he calls it the Weeb Watch. Yeah. Yeah, those are good ones. If I can make it, I'd like to actually make those because those are great ones. Yeah, so that's on Matchstick's channel. Definitely, if one of you has access to his link, I know Troy, you're usually pretty quick on that. If you want to,
sorry, I've been falling down on the job here.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you could drop that. And sounded great. All of our links are down. I need to go ahead and just add your link, Matchstick, to the list down there. I'll do that when I think about it next time. But everybody's links here is down in the description below. Except for Netter. Netter's Network is now a channel and a thing happening, so I need to add that too. So yeah, everybody follow that. And
I wonder how many people see that think it's like about volleyball or something.
What?
Oh, because the net like volleyball net. Oh, gotcha.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
I didn't
come
make
up with the name.
Yeah.
So yeah, for those of you who weren't aware, I changed the name of my channel from my name to Netter's Network, and I will be getting up content eventually. I'm hoping to get it up sooner rather than later. It's kind of going to be like a hodgepodge of different things until I see what sticks, and then I'll be kind of doing more exclusively whatever that thing is the most. So when you do see my content, let me know how much you like it, or if you don't like it, so I have an idea of which direction to kind of go into, and that'll help me out.
Do something controversial.
And decrease your fan base by half, right?
It'll gain you likes though and views, that's for sure.
True. That's true.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, so next week will be Double Indemnity. I'm psyched about it. I'm glad you guys are interested in doing it. A lot of fun. The James Cain novel, and then the Chandler's screenplay for it.
I am enjoying the noir / classic film dedication just on a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I really am.
I want to keep that going. Once we're done with film noir, or we just want to take a break or whatever, we'll move into probably the screwball comedies. But I'm really enjoying this. This is fun to get back into this.
I will say I like that it is a stretch of a specific genre for a while, and then moving on to a different thing later.
Yeah.
I like it's not
Well, there's value in seeing one particular genre and doing a comparison and a contrast, you know, like we just did with looking at the same character played by a different actor. You know?
Yeah.
And forgetting all the names of the other characters that we see.
Yeah, and then next week, of course, we'll be able to look at a film noir without the hard-boiled detective, so we can see, compare and contrast
that'll be
with
fun.
that.
Yeah. But one thing, but to follow through on the theme where one leads into another, Fred McMurray won the lead of Double Indemnity over Dick Powell.
Yeah.
Dick
And
Powell was up in that role.
Fred McMurray himself was trying to break out of the comedic. Yeah. So Mr. My Three Sons, you know, definitely, he does a great job in it too. Great job as well. Enough. Flubber, yeah. The absent-minded professor, yeah. Definitely. Cool. All right. Well, anything else I'm forgetting, guys? Anything else you guys want to mention? Of course, Monday nights, Sound Engravers. Do you have a theme yet for those? That's right. You're the Deconstructionist. We're doing that.
I think so. Yeah. I'll do an overview of the Deconstructionist idea in 20th century music.
Yeah.
And then if you're available the 21, you mentioned it, so I'm not gonna.
I'm there. Absolutely. So it'll be fun.
So that will be fun. I'd love to make the comparison and draw some parallels there.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Anything else, guys?
That's it.
Nope. All right. Casey's got Screwball. No, Screwball is not Three Stooges. That's slapstick. Yeah. But you're right. It is similar terms. Yeah. Screwball is more witty dialogue. I think Bringing Up Baby, Some Like It Hot, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's similar words there. Slapstick, screwball, you know, zany words. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks guys for hanging out with us tonight. It was a blast doing the rewatch, and we will come back next week. Until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love.
Bye.
Bye.
I need to come up with a